Hi there, and welcome back to Hymer Bil Technical. Today we're going to be fitting a new outer CV boot. Now, what we're going to be using is the Ballcast, and I'm not promoting them, the Ballcast split CV boot. Now, a split CV boot is what it sounds like. It comes as the main boot, but to allow you to put the boot on without completely dismantling your hub, it comes split. Now, I don't normally recommend these. It's just a thing I got from my dad. My father didn't like these. He said they tended to break up and split open, which may be the case. I have fitted them before, but I've not had not had the vehicles that long to know how long these would last. So as I say, don't recommend them, but I'm using one because I want to finish this job this weekend and I want to get away tomorrow. We're going to go probably away to the west coast, so I want this job done today. I don't want the hassle of splitting the whole complete hub, so we're using that. Normally what I would use, and I might show you in another little video, is I use a stretch boot, and I have a special tool in the garage which takes a boot like this. A tool fits inside the boot and opens it wide up enough to slip it over a CV joint, but still you need to take your wheel and your hub off. So we're not going to be doing that today. What we're going to do is we're going to show you how to fit the CV boot. Now, another thing with CV boots, you see a lot of them now, they are held on with cable ties, which is great, easy to use, easy to tighten up, and quite secure. But I tell you now, with the Hymer, the Peugeot B534, a cable tie will not fit inside the hub holder or the CV boot holder. It will catch, your boot will come off, it's just not possible. They rub inside. What you do use is either the ties, the metal ties that come with the boot, but I found that these are not very good quality, and I've always keep these in the garage, and they're like heavy duty clips, and I use these. But even these, I don't know if I can show you on camera, where they secure using a special set of pliers. They're not expensive, but these pliers basically crimp this tight, as you can see on there. Even if this crimp is too high, it will catch on the inside of the hub holder, so this needs to be knocked down quite flat. Okay, and we'll try and show you that on camera. So don't go trying to fit a new CV boot with cable ties. Maybe the outside, the inside one you could get away with, which is on the shaft, but certainly not the other one that's holding it over the hub. Okay, so you won't get away with that. So without further ado, we'll get pulling the wheel off. Okay, so we'll leave it off the hubcap. Bring the camera down to let you see this. So you can see the nut here, and I'll just let you know the size if I can remember. So obviously I can't. Okay, and It's a 41mm socket if you're going to do this yourself. So a 41mm socket, and you'll see at these points here and here they're knocked over. Now that's to ensure that your nut will obviously not loosen off as you're driving. Okay, so these need to be knocked out, and I'll use just a pin just to knock these back. Now officially, I suppose with Fiat, if you were going to Fiat Peugeot, you'd probably have to replace these, or they would recommend a replace, but if you're just adjusting or doing this job, you'll get away with just repinning them over when you're finished. Okay, so I'll go on with that, and I'll just going to loose it while it's again on the ground, because these can be quite tight, especially I found on the Fiats are going to be really tight. But these have got taper rollers in them, and these shouldn't be solid on the Peugeot. I'll show you how I adjust them without having the torque wrench or the torque wrench settings, and it's had me in good stead. So we've done 7,000 miles now, so we did have one faulty bearing, but we've not had a problem really. Okay, I'm going to show you on a proper CV boot how these clips work that hold the boot on. Now normally in the packet they'll come actually bent like that. I've got more heavy duty ones which come straight, which I find a lot better. I've not used these ones because I find generally they're not that as good as bespoke ones. But you can see how they operate. They are here. Now I've already done this on the split boot. Basically it's wrapped around the boot. Now if it's a straight one you've got out of packet, you basically have to shape them to the boot. You then push them as tight as you possibly can until they lock in, like so. Now that's not them tightened. That won't hold your boot on. You then take this type of plier, specialist plier for the job. You then clamp them on like this and compress them, and that pulls this lug in tight and locks this tight in position. Okay, now on these, because there's such a small gap between where this joint is sitting and the outside of the hub holder, if you don't knock that down a bit with a hammer, which you've still got to be very careful so it doesn't unlock the grip, it will catch and it will wear away, and your CV boot will come off at that end. So I'll try and let you see what I'm doing in the underside. Try to wear gloves whenever possible. I'm not very good at it, hence my horrible rough hands, but try. I probably went over the top when I put this bearing on, because it doesn't take a lot to hold these from stopping movement. And this will not be really solid on, it'll be almost hand tight, like you see that. That's how tight that bearing is. And there was no looseness on that bearing at all. But just in case it is tight, always do it on the ground. So we're ready to jack up. And then once you're jacked up, always put something under for safety. I'll be putting a log under it. I'll take the wheel off first. And I'm jacking up on the proper jacking point. It's always good on an old vehicle to make sure your jacking points are really solid, because the last thing you want to do is you're away someplace, go jack the vehicle up and it crumbles. And I have had that happen to the past. So I know when I got Bil, this was all rebuilt properly. It was the only bit on Bil that had any corrosion, and I made sure that he was solid. Yeah, it's the one area I made sure that Bil was solid. But I checked the whole of him. He's a really solid vehicle. But there was a bit of corrosion out there. I cut every bit of corrosion out and I actually welded in a heavier gauge steel and made some box section there. Really, he is solid. So I have no plans about jacking him up there. So yeah, jack him up, and what I'll do is I'll put one of my logs again. My axle stands are still in use, so yeah, I'll put someone under there just to keep it safe once I've got the wheel up. Okay, so I've now got my axle stand or block of wood, and I can hear people going, "Oh, safety, safety." That log will take a lot more than my axle stands or my jack will take, I can assure you. So without further ado, let's get this off. Okay, it's important with these split boots that you keep them clean, keep them away from all the work that you're doing, because if they get dirty, the glue won't bind on the joint and it definitely will fall apart. So we're into the brake and the hub. While I'm there, I'm just checking. I've got about 10mm brake pad there, and brakes aren't needing looked at. Now, I'm not going to service the front brakes at the moment, but all you do is, we'll cover this in another video at some point. What we're going to do, what you would do is take the pins out, and we'll show you that getting done another time. And a quick basic service of the brakes, if your brake pads are fine, you're basically just taking the pins out on the sliders, greasing them up, making sure your brakes are free, and having a look at your disc. And on your disc, you're basically looking at obviously the condition of the disc. You're looking at the disc there, checking that there's no ridge line on there. Now you can just, if there's a ridge on that, these are very meaty discs, you can just buff that ridge off a wee bit, just with not with a grinder stone, but with maybe a lap wheel, and just gently round the edge, and it helps with binding and making noises with your brakes. So you can just gently buff the edge of that off. Okay, looking for any bad scores. These are nice. That's after 7,000 miles, so pretty good. Okay, and these are the sliders here. Okay, you would take these off, and I'll show you in another video. And these are just sliding pins, and you make sure they're greased up, because one of the main problems with brakes binding is these pins seizing up. Last service I did grease them up, and I know my brakes are freeing off nice and easy, and I've no pulling to one side or anything like that. But these are the main problems, these sliders. Okay. Yeah, I'm only taking this hub nut off to get enough movement on the shaft to get my retaining band on the shaft, because as I'll show you in the video, it is there's not any room to get that band on without pushing that back, and you see that went back about 20mm, and that will give us enough on the other side to get a retaining band on, and we'll show you that in closer detail. Hopefully you can see what I'm doing here. I've tried to get the camera in as close as possible. Now you can see the damaged CV boot. I'm just going to take a Stanley blade and I'm going to cut that boot clear. And that was a stretch boot that was on, no joins in it, and it was opened up to allow it to stretch over the top. And I think probably when we were away, we did have a problem with this bearing. It's a new bearing on here, and I was in and out at this trying to get more grease into it when we were away down in Italy this year. So I'll let you see the CV. I will straighten the steering out to try and fit the new boot, but we'll let you get a closer look. There's your CV joint itself, you can see there. This boot here, and you'll see there's no grease basically left in that. Now I'm not going to pack it with grease at the moment. The reason I'm not going to pack it with grease is I do not want grease getting on to the new split CV joint. Okay, if grease gets on that joint when I'm putting together, it will not stick and it will have a failure. Okay, so I won't be putting it on until the boot's actually on and glued together, and I'll slide it back out the way. Then I will absolutely pack this CV joint full of the grease that comes with the actual boot. I'll show you that packet, and I'll put a bit more grease in it. At the moment there's no noise on it, it's quite tight, but you can see if I had driven much further I would have damaged this joint. Okay, it's fairly dry. Now the reason I took the nut off, and this is why I took the nut off, is this is the edge, if you can see my finger, of the actual joint, and the CV boot, the new CV boot, goes over, locates over that ridge, and then the securing tie goes over the top of that. Now as you can see there's no way I'm getting that tie in, but luckily on this vehicle, on your B534, I'm sure the Fiat's the same, and this is the Peugeot, and I think the Talbot will probably be the same, possibly not, but if I push this you can see I've got total access to that area, and I'll easily be able to put the CV band, the retaining band on there, and it is crucial that that band is nice and tight. So I'm going to clean any grease residue that's off of that, any grease down here, then I'm going to put the joint together, and I'll see if I can get the camera in here to let you see. So obviously I'm using one hand at the moment. Okay, we've cleaned off. Okay, we've cleaned off all the grease. Got a nice and clean area to work in. Now what I'll do is I'll just check the size of the outer end where this fits over the CV joint, and make sure this side is cut to the size that fits the shaft of your drive shaft. Okay, so we'll cut these to size just with a Stanley blade, and then if you can see, I don't see how closely you can see this, on these you see there's a ridge and a hollow that makes a joint up. Now what you do is you run, it's a special type of super glue down that joint, then you really have to be careful and make that joint nice and tight and hold it until the super glue makes the bond. Then with the glues of these days, hopefully that'll be it, solid, and we'll then move on to putting on the bands, which I'll let you see in the video. Okay, so we're going to measure up the side of this, just make sure the right size is, and make sure that that joint doesn't get dirty. And I'm going to have to turn the steering wheel to do this. I'm not going to get it. So keep this bit all very clean. And you can see that this is going to be quite tight, so I don't need to cut anything off. The inner one is certainly going to need to be cut. Okay, so we're going to run the glue along the joint. Make sure there's adequate amount in it. It is very fiddly, this, I've got to say. It's hard to actually see what the fuck you're doing, pardon the French. Maybe better overlapping it. Can't even see if I've got bloody glue in there. It would be better having a bit of a light in here. And you don't want to miss any part of the joint. And then slowly, until it takes a grip. That's that end held. There's a cable tie. I'm actually going to put cable ties all along this to try and get it in position. shows you the problems with these things. I'm realising why I've only used them once before. So that's holding that bit in position. I definitely advise 100% use a lot of cable ties to hold this. Although it's a type of super glue and it's supposed to be instant, it's not that good. It's not holding instantly. So honestly, it might be a bit easier if you were in a workshop scenario with this above your head, but then the reason we're doing this is because we're in a household situation. I'm going to have to use 2 cable ties for that bit. Obviously this end one's going to be held once you get the boot over. So I have my band in position. Now just as a talking point, I was putting this on and stretching it. It has to be quite tight, and I was stretching it over the hub cover, and I actually saw this splitting slightly. So I'm not holding out much hope on these. We'll give it a few 100 miles this week and I'll be checking this again, but I'm not holding out too much hope that this will stay and stop the hub from leaking grease. I'm really not. Luckily, as you've seen, I have another proper boot and I can see that boot having to be used. So anyway, with these pliers, obviously the reason I took the hub nut off is you can see that I wouldn't be able to get into this. So pliers in position and crimp that up tight. And you can see how that's compressed. That's compressed, and what I'll do is I'll knock that down, hopefully not. And I'll be able to slide underneath the hub. So I'll just knock that down. Make sure it's still tight. And you see that's not going to go under the hub, so that will break off. So I need to knock it down further and hopefully not. Still not going down. This is a problem with these. I'll get my punches. I'm still struggling. Not very good. And obviously if I do it too hard, I'm going to puncture that rubber. Trials and tribulations. try again. Another clip. Okay, second try. Can't even get this one to lock. Yeah. Now it's trying to annoy me. Okay, I'm going to say it now. I don't recommend these. I said that at the start. I do not recommend these. That's it done. I don't like the look of it. I think that will split or leak at some point. I'll give it a few 100 miles. We'll see. I really think I've probably just wasted my time. It's got us on the road. I mean, the joint was definitely needing greased up in a new boot, so it's going to get us away. It's taken the afternoon. It's fiddly, it's horrible, it's not a good job. I'd rather take the drive shaft out and do a better job and use, you can see the difference with the, where is it, with a proper Peugeot drive shaft boot. So I think that'll end up going on. But anyway, okay, when you're tightening up the hub, you don't even need to put the van back on the ground. I'm holding that tight, and just until it stops turning, and then at that, on my one, because it's bedded in, and I'm putting the same bearing is still in. I've just put that hand tight. I've not even put really any pressure on that, just until the nut stops, and you see it's actually back in the same position. And then just to check it turns with no real effort. Okay, I can turn that and it's turning, it's not stopping. Okay, there's no noises. Okay, then I'll just stake that over and then put the hub back, the cover back on. But anyway, bye for now. Please like, subscribe. I'd like to keep doing these videos, but knock us up in the comments, tell us if you like the videos. I'll do the things to save you doing it. Don't do the split CV boot. Go the whole hog, and maybe I'll end up doing a video of doing the whole unit. Okay, bye for now.
Please like, subscribe, hit me up in the comments, join the community, and we will see you again soon.